It's 2 a.m. on the East Coast, and that means the polls will be open in just 4 hours as the grand and precious privilege of American democracy begins anew. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Shawn, and this is another hour of America's Election Headquarters.
And I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much for sticking around with us or joining us. And would you believe it, one town already in. It is the first in the nation tradition in the tiny New Hampshire city of Dixville Notch.
And according to the 2010 census, 12 people live there. That's right, 12. And the results, well, here are the results. 4 for the Clinton-Kaine ticket, 2 for Trump-Pence. Libertarian Gary Johnson, Bill Weld, they received 1 vote. And there was a write-in for Mitt Romney, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And they've actually predicted 3 of the last 4 elections, so we'll see how that goes for the rest of the day. Well, this, of course, is ahead of Election Day. Both candidates, they were in last-minute overdrive. Both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton wrapping up dueling midnight rallies earlier this morning.
Yeah, we were able to carry a couple of those for you. And they spent the day making their closing arguments to the American people. Donald Trump, who was just in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a traditionally blue state, but one that is very much in play for the Republican nominee.
There is one core question for you to consider. Do you want America to be ruled by the corrupt political class? To be ruled by you, the people.
And meanwhile, on the other side, Mrs. Clinton capped off an election eve with an event at North Carolina State University. That event was in Raleigh. You know, they say the Tar Heel State could go either way, but if Mrs. Clinton were to win there, experts think it would block Mr. Trump's path to the White House.
It is a choice between division or unity, between strong, steady leadership or a loose cannon who could risk everything.
And it may finally now be Election Day, but you know, it's been election month for millions of us who now cast ballots during early voting. Kelly Wright is here with a look at the impact of this growing method of voting in our country. Hi, Kelly.
Eric, good morning to you as well. When it comes to early voting, the candidates know they have to be careful in determining what the data from those early ballots may indicate. But keep this in mind. At least 40% of the country has already voted, that according to our own Chris Steyerwalt, and you can be sure the Trump, Pence, and Clinton-Kaine campaigns have been paying attention to those early voters, which help them determine what states to barnstorm in their closing arguments. Let's take a closer look at all of this. 42 million voters have already gone to the polls this election year, more than 18 million of those early votes taking place in key battleground states, and the race in each of those states, well, may come down to being a nail-biter. A large number of voters have been women and Latino voters, while the turnout of African-American early voters is lower than it was in 2012 when President Barack Obama was on the ticket running for re-election. Still, it's very difficult to determine which candidate is leading right now. The state of Georgia set an early voting record with more than 2.1 million early votes cast. And in Florida, the biggest swing state for both of these candidates, more than 5.3 million voters have already cast their ballots in the Sunshine State. Both candidates have been fighting hard to win there in Florida, which, of course, provides a solid path to winning the Electoral College. Then there's North Carolina. Clinton and Trump have been visiting the state to urge their base to get out the vote. The Tar Heel State has become a key battleground state for Donald Trump. If he can pull off a win in North Carolina, it could possibly help him in his quest to win the Electoral College. But with heavy campaigning from the president and first lady, Hillary Clinton could possibly reclaim North Carolina. Something to keep in mind with all of this as we talk about early voting, even with the early voting already done, today is truly the big day when Americans make their votes. And we, of course, will have the results after the polls close tonight and determine who will be the next president of the United States. Heather?
All right, Kelly, I'll take it, and we will be here later on this evening, 24 hours from now, with all-night coverage on the Fox News channel. No, you'll be along with us. Kelly, thank you.
We've got you covered right here. Well, there are several battleground states, as you just heard Kelly talking about, that are key for Trump to win the election. Come 7 a.m. Eastern, all eyes will be on North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Florida, amongst some others. And to talk more about this, we have Dino Scaros. He is the author of Grumpy Old Party. Dino, thank you so much for joining us. Can you believe we finally made it? It is Election Day. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. It's unbelievable. Good to be with you, Heather. Thank you.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in for us. You heard some of those early voting numbers that Kelly Wright was talking about, like 42 million people nationwide so far, 18 million of those in some key battleground states. In terms of the path to victory for Donald Trump, what is his best path?
Well, I think he absolutely has to win Florida. I'm assuming he's going to win Ohio. He needs those two states. And then if he picks up North Carolina and Iowa and maybe one of the southwestern states, Arizona, Utah, I think he's okay with that path. I don't think Pennsylvania is out of the question. I don't think Wisconsin and Michigan is out of the question either. So I think he has numerous paths. I think Hillary Clinton has numerous paths too, but I don't see her with a clear advantage. I think it could go in many different directions.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple things there. In terms of Florida, 5.3 million voters have already cast their ballot there. We are hearing early on that the Hispanic vote is up there. The African-American vote is down in several states, North Carolina being one of those, one of the other key battleground states. How do you think that will impact Hillary Clinton?
Well, I thought the African-American vote would be down from 2012 and 2008. The Hispanic vote shouldn't be looked at as a monolith because, you know, among Hispanics, you have Cubans in Florida who traditionally vote Republican, so there's a lot to be said about that as well. And so I really think this is a very different election. One of the reasons I think it's different in 2012 is that even though in 2012 Obama beat Romney and so the uphill climb is for Trump to get that back, I think that Obama was a stronger candidate than Hillary Clinton. And conversely, I think Donald Trump is a stronger candidate than Mitt Romney. So it's an uphill climb, but there's that variable as well.
And something else that we've heard discussed, and you also mentioned this, these are these closet Trump voters, people that maybe aren't so willing to publicly say that they are in fact going to vote for Donald Trump.
Absolutely, and I think that across the country right now, you have Hillary strongholds and Trump strongholds, and those among the Hillary strongholds who don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, but they won't say it out loud, they're actually going to vote for Donald Trump, which is a double gain. It's a takeaway from her, a gain from him. Whereas in the Trump strongholds, where you have people who don't want to tell their families, I'm not really going to vote for Trump, I think they're going to leave the slate blank. I don't think there are many that'll cross over to Hillary, as many as in the Hillary strongholds who would cross over to Trump, so that could be the difference.
You know, you're comparing that to, you know, the race in 2012. What's causing that this time around? Is this like a phenomenon that we're just hearing about, or does this frequently happen where people don't really want to admit who they're voting for? Is it because they're embarrassed, or maybe they're being shamed?
I think they're being shamed. I think there's a lot of misperceptions about both candidates, honestly, particularly about Donald Trump. As I've said many times before, he never really called Mexicans rapists. He never really said ban all Muslims. There are a lot of things he didn't really do, but for a Trump supporter who knows that, if he or she says, I'm voting for Trump, people are going to say, oh, then you obviously must be a racist or a sexist, and so they don't want to deal with that, so they just keep their mouth shut.
All right, well, we'll see what they do when they get to the voting booth today. Definitely a big day across America. Thank you so much for joining us, Dino. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Well, as Dino was just suggesting, is there hidden Trump support out there that's not reflected in the polls? Let's go to our political panel. Ellen Ratner, Bureau Chief of Talk Media.